It all began when our founding partners kept hearing about the struggles and questions people were having about how to best integrate bilingual education into Montessori schools effectively. And this photo that you see here is from the Lead Montessori Conference Open Space session in Prague in 2019. This was one of the lively, heartfelt discussions of people wondering how to best integrate bilingualism in Montessori classrooms, and what we feel is the beginning of bilingual Montessori. After this, the partners organized themselves and applied for and received a 3-year grant from Erasmus to support our project. Bilingual Montessori was officially launched in February of 2022. Early on, it was decided that our approach to this challenge would come from the whole school perspective, meaning that we will focus on the work with the specific needs of the different groupings that make up a school, namely the Montessori guides, the language specialists, and the school leaders. And keeping those groupings in mind, we have 3 outcomes for our project. First, we have the field guide, which we have officially now called Field Guide for Building Bilingual Programs, Elementary Schools. This guide is rich with effective classroom and administrative practices from Montessori schools, so you can see and learn from how others have developed effective practices. Additionally, there's information provided from language experts to help you better understand second language acquisition and development. Next, we are producing a 3-level online, a 3-level online training course based on this field guide. It's created for those wanting to build or improve a bilingual school with support and collaboration. The last outcome we set to accomplish is to build this community for all of us to engage, practice, support, and relate to each other. We've done this through our community conversations, social media groups, and our website at bilingualmontessori.com, as well as the open dialogue we have had with so many of you that have reached out to us to share your experiences. Here you can see our team if you don't know us already, and if you would like to learn more about each one of us and what we bring to this project, you can visit our website and learn more about us. And also, each one of you are part of our journey in this project, so please keep in touch with social media and our website. Let us know what your needs are, your ideas, and your feedback on the project. Sign up for our newsletter on our website to learn about future events. And from there, you can email us at hello@bilingualmontessori.com. And we would love to hear from you. So now I'm going to pass it to Mary Kay, who will talk a little bit more specific about the project and what we've been doing lately. Mary Kay?
Yeah, thanks, Amy. So if you happen to you probably receive our newsletters. I don't know if you have the time to actually read them, but I've been announcing in the recent newsletters that that we are preparing to finally launch and release this field guide that we've been working on. Amy, I don't know if you can see, but the text is quite blurry, at least on my screen. Anyway, so I wanted to give you a sneak peek of this field guide that we've been first collecting information from different experts, as well as people like you who are actually working in schools all over the world, and compiling it into this field guide. Our intention is to give you kind of signposts to help you along your way as you figure out how to better implement second language learning in your schools. This is just the table of contents and the cover of the field guide. And it will be released in the end of this November 2024. But we'll be giving you more sneak peeks in this format as we go along, and hopefully without the technical difficulties that we're having today, to give you an idea of the work that we're doing. So in the table of contents, there's a part 1, a part 2, and a part 3. Part 1 is really for the people running the programs. It's reviewing what the foundations of a bilingual program should be, the theory behind it, the practice. And then we also, and how you set up, sustainable structures in your school to keep the program going, and how you. So we do that in this section, in this part, and then we also have a case study example from a school in Córdoba, Spain. And so you can see from some of their experience what might work with you. Part 2 is a section, a more theoretical section on language learning, going through the different parts of it, the things that make it happen, but really understanding it from the expert's point of view. Then part 3 is preparing the bilingual learning environment. And in this section is when we really, that's where we are offering the very practical advice and examples for those of you who are in the classroom working with children.
So, hello everyone, and I'd like to talk about a Montessori approach, or at least our experience in approaching the Cambridge and National Standard exam. Okay. I'm Roberta Andenna, of course, and I teach English as a second language at the Montessori School of Bergamo in Italy. I've been teaching English for more than 30 years now, but at the Montessori School for 12 years. So I'd like to start just telling you that our school has a very historical background, and we're very fond of this. So our school was founded in 1949 by the will of Mrs. Eleonora Caprotti-Onegger and Antonia Trezzi, in collaboration with Camillo Grazzini and Mario Montessori himself, so the son of Maria Montessori. This is very important for us. So the school started as a very small school, just with children's house. And then now, our offer is from the infant community until the end of the primary elementary school. That for us in Italy means when our students are 11 years old. So from 6 months until 11 now. In total, we have for this school year 334 children, and the average is about 14% of international families. We mean with this that at least one of the parents is from another country in the world. So the kids are exposed to at least one more language apart from Italian and English at school. It can be Russian, can be Portuguese, Spanish. Okay, this is our percentage for this year, of course. So what I'm going to tell you now is that, of course, it's not just me at the school, but we have this English team that we are 5 native speaker or bilingual teachers, 2 at the Casa dei Bambini and 3 at the primary elementary school. We all have a degree in languages or a diploma for teaching English as a second language, and of course, the diploma for Montessori Pedagogy. So this is the general schedule of our school, the way we work. It's what I'm going to tell you now is valid for the class of the primary school from the 1st year until 5th year, a week and per group. Per group, we mean that we usually have for each year, so 1st year, 2nd year, at least 40, 42, no more than 46 kids in 1 year, but we divide them, we split them into groups of 20, 22 kids. Of course, they can mix, they're not strict groups. So they mixed up during the year, we mix, we work together, and sometimes we do what we call the open door policy, of course. So we work, we work and we open doors. But now we focus on what is the main topic of today, that is the name of our project, Focus on English. It's not a bilingual school, but we want to focus more on English in different ways. So how we have 3 hours with me or the other specialized teacher, 2 extra hours with the native speaker teacher during the art classes. So what we call compresenza. So we work together. And then 2 hours a week of cosmic education in English together with the class teacher. So sometimes can be history, science, any topic. We decide at the beginning of the year together with our colleagues. Sorry. So we don't focus just on tests, of course, but what follows is mainly done in what we call the language lesson. We don't divide the lesson so strictly, but I'm going to tell you, what I'm going to tell you now is that when we focus on the language, that's the way we work. So for Cambridge tests, we offer them at the end of the 4th year. So it means 10-year-old students and is the starters. So the pre-A1 for the European standard. And at the end of the 5th grade, we offer the movers. But sometimes, if we see that some of the students are good enough, not just with their English skills, but in general, with their comprehension skills in Italian and the way they manage the autonomous work during English hours, we offer them the flyers level, that is the A2. So when they are 10, 11 years old. But at the same time, at the end of the 5th grade, as Mary-Kay was underlined before, we also have the Italian standard test. And it's the A1 level. Of course, there are some difference between the 2 tests, but I'm going to talk about this later on. So this is what we offer. I say offer because we don't oblige. It's not compulsory. Our students don't have to sit this exam. It starters and movers, the Cambridge test, but it's something that we offer and we implement during our classes because we think very useful to empower their academic skills, let's say like that. And they usually love doing this. So we have a high number of students. For example, this year, out of 38, we have 31 students. So more or less, it's a good standard for us to have like impartial results. And then for, of course, the national standard is compulsory. So we just have to do it. Okay, so what we, the way we work is, as you may work on the listening, speaking, the writing, and reading tasks. I know that I divide this just for functional reason, but all these skills are linked. Okay, we are a Montessori school. Of course, we have to start from what? From a scientifically prepared environment. So in every single class, we have an English corner that is prepared with material to work that works and focuses on the different tasks to make them independent and autonomous in their working. So they have material to work for written skills, speaking, reading and writing. All of this is divided with different material or some trays, something like that. But then we have to put passion in what we do, of course. So what we do also, we prepare these 2 trolleys, and the children love this because one is the library trolley, where they can find books that they can use to work on researches or projects, but also to read and improve their reading skills. And here on the right, you see the other trolley that is for extra free work material. What is funny is that some of the material they found here, it's also in the English corner, but they prefer to pick the material from here, from the English trolley, because they're children and they love this kind of things. So passion, science and passion together, they're very important to draw the attention. Right? So for the listening, we usually work on 2 ways. So the class listening, is the traditional way. So I use authentic listening. But sometimes what I like to do is to do listening without previous tests or questions to train their attention and ear, because they are kids, and some of the problem in the listening I notice from my experience is that they don't pay the right attention to the sound. And so the mistake is that even the most common words, they can get them, because if they see maybe also the answer, on the written paper, they guess the word. But if they don't have the paper, a prior answer worksheet, it's difficult, it's more difficult for them. So sometimes I offer this kind of listenings also to draw his attention, to improve this. And I have an example here. Okay, maybe you know this site is the British Council site. I find it very interesting because it offers short listenings. It's A1 level, but it's not so easy and obvious as some of the listening you can find in books. Right? So this is just an example.
Hello.
Hello. What's your name?
My name's Lucy.
And what's your surname, Lucy?
Moore.
Can you spell that?
M-O-O-R-E.
Thank you. What class are you in?
Class 1B.
Class 1B. And how old are you, Lucy?
I'm 13.
Have you got a photo?
Yes, here you are.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Lucy. Here's your school library card.
Thanks. Bye.
Goodbye.
Okay, as you listen, it's very short and easy, but if I don't give them prior the questions or any inputs, it's not so obvious. So they have to focus immediately on the task. And that's a way I found very interesting and useful, and it works for my students at least. And there are different topics. Then I use listenings from Cambridge or Invalsi, but there are some differences. You know what? In this case, I think that the Invalsi, sorry, is the name of our national standard exam. I think it's more difficult because while in the Cambridge exam, the layout of the structure of the test, they say like 1, 2 or speaker 1, speaker 2. In the other one, in the national standard test, they don't do that. It's just a natural conversation. And so kids have to follow all the dialogues, for example, and then answer the question. So this is another skill they have to improve and practice. Of course, I use some songs. Sometimes just try to guess as many words as you can is another way to practice their listening. And everything we do together, then I ask them to do also in the autonomous learning. So they can do the listening with individual work, like this girl here. She is reading and listening to some stories, and also together. We can do them together. Of course, at the end, I ask them to come to me and I ask them questions like, what did you like with the story? What did you learn? What is the most interesting part, or something similar? So we can discuss a little bit about this. Other ways, I like to do free conversation. So they have 5 minutes to talk about something they like, or use their imagination to talk about something they did yesterday, or a film if we want to suggest, something like that. And then I always ask them, hello, how are you? But then I add more questions, of course, like why, where did you go? What did you do? Who came with you? Just to improve their speaking skills. And I prepare some materials. This is something you may have. Here on the left, there are some simple questions, and they have to ask each other while they work during their free work. And on the right, there are 2 guys who are actually doing this activity. I use a lot of speaking cards. These on the left are divided per topics, like friends, sports, food, season, and math. Okay, so they have to ask questions to a schoolmate, and they have to answer. Of course, I have to work before on some previous strategies and skills, because they have to know how to answer or what to say, but this is another part of the job. And this is something ready, but I find interesting because these flashcards, they have on the back some questions they can ask, but it's from the easiest one. And when they go down, they become more and more difficult and more open. Something, for example, the first one is, what is it? Or what color is it? And then at the end, the last one can be something like, name something that starts with B, or name something that is blue, or tell me about your dog, tell me about this picture. So it's more open. And for them, it's another level of difficulty. Other ideas? Of course, I use the authentic material from Cambridge. So describe the picture, what's going on in the picture, what are the children doing? So the usual question that you may know, and how many, who is doing something. Okay, so, and other cards, speaking cards I use are something like that. Okay, this is particular because we start from Italian. On one side, you have the Italian questions or sentences. On the other side, you have the English translation. So children can use one way or the other. And sometimes I'm just very simple words, but then they become small and short conversation. Okay, for the reading and writing, it's something that we need to improve in general. I use these kind of cards in between, something in between reading and writing and speaking. So on the left, you find just this action, and they have to guess that the word is, for example, reading a book, or driving, or watching a film, playing football, okay. And because we tend to use always I play football, I do this, I do that. So then I ask them to mix these cards to use other subjects, other characters, like Sandra, Laura, so who is doing this? And And then they have to put everything together. Sometimes they tell the story, they make up a story, but I ask them to write it down too. So it becomes a writing activity. And I also prepared on the right some small cards that the color is similar, not similar, it's the same of the part of the speech of the Maria Montessori symbol. So the pronouns we swim, or I go to school, I go home, and we have a lot. I have also prepositions, adjectives, but I don't have an example here. So they can use the cards. Why did I do this? Because they don't have to write. And for some kids, if they don't have to write, is something they really love. So they work on like writing, and they work on building a sentence, but without writing it down at the beginning. So they like to do that. Otherwise, they just sometimes say, no, I don't want to write. So in this way, it's another way of approaching their writing skills. Then I prepare this tray, how to write a story. I use this, okay, this is ready. It's what we call traccia in Italian. So it's a map, and they have to think where does the story take place, what happens, when, who, and they have to write it down, of course, this is written. I also prepare short reading comprehension, because I don't need to ask them to work on very long tests, not everybody. But for example, this one is about bats. If you read, I use very short sentences, like this is a bat. Bat live everywhere in the world. They sleep in the day and they eat at night. But then I don't prepare the question. I ask them to make 4 questions using these 4 verbs. So they have to focus on information in the test, and then they have to answer to the same questions. But this is something useful because they have to struggle in finding information. And I notice that more and more my students, at least, have difficulties in finding even the easiest information. It's there, but they don't read it. Maybe they read it, but they don't notice it. Maybe this could be another interesting topic to talk about. Anyway, so short test. And so when they have to make the question, they have to focus more on what is written. Okay, this on the left is more traditional. So it's a test that talks about autumn and corn. And I actually highlighted the keywords in the test. And then I underlined the keywords in the questions. So they have to answer the questions, but I help them like that. Otherwise, sometimes they answer what they like, or maybe it's not the specific answer. So this is a way to help them doing this. What I hope that they become more and more confident and independent, and maybe after some months that we work with this like this, then we don't need it anymore. On the right, I have an example of what is taken from Invalsi, so the national standard. And it's interesting because it's not a test, it's like a poster. And sometimes they have to read the posters or invitation cards, or the invitation cards. So the children have the questions here from 1 to 6, but they have to read and find the information in another way. It's not the test they used to, but they have to look and read through all the tests, for all, the picture, invitation, and the cards. And believe me, this is another things. Sometimes they ask me, it's not written, but it's there. But they tell me, it's not written, Roberta. Look, read very carefully, it's there. So we have to train them. if you can use this word. Okay, so this is a sensitive topic in a Montessori school in particular. So how and what to evaluate? Of course, as a language specialist, we evaluate the listening, the speaking, the reading and writing skills. But how? Through observation. I observe them a lot during the class work, during the free work, autonomous learning. But I also ask them sometimes to do some tests, our tests, not just Cambridge or Impulsive, because I think this is very important also for us, because sometimes we get some results that are very surprising for us. I mean, us like teachers. So observation is key. Then sometimes some tests and the way they work during the autonomous learning, the autonomous work. But what is key is their improvements in respect to a pupil's level and skills. Of course, we are Montessori. Okay, everything. This is very important for all schools, but in particular in the Montessori school, we need to consider this. The improvement in respect to a pupil's level and skill, the way he or she started and where she is now. So his goal and the special needs he has, everything like that. What we consider also is the use of the language in the context that is as authentic and natural as possible. So what we call CRIL, that is for us in the Montessori school, the cosmic education. So if the girl or the boy show interest and curiosity about other culture, this is the intercultural awarenesses. Of course, I'm not going to talk about this now, but apart from all the work I showed you before about the listening, the speaking, the reading and writing activities, we also have international projects, like we are part of a twinning this year. So we have a school exchange with cards or video calls. So also this part is important. But if I want to train them in particular for the test or for their skills, I work with the other material. But everything is important to have them then sit the exam and be at their ease to do the test. Also because this is important to have impartial results. Also for me, maybe I have the impression that maybe the fifth grader are good this year, but then I get different results from the test. So it can be interesting also for us as teacher to get impartial results. So what do these tests tell us? The positive thing is that the kids, they usually have fun. I mean, at our school, because we don't, we say it's positive, they have fun. So this is good. And offering such exam is useful for obtaining reliable feedbacks that will empower the children academically and beyond. It's a starting point to be confident, to, because we don't have so much stress and tests at the Montessori school. So why not offering them this opportunity, this chance to train also that psychological side? Let's tell you this. Okay, we get impartial results, but what we read when we have the results, okay, we have a lot of information in particular from the national standards, because they tell us the results of our school in comparison to Italy, in comparison to our region, which is Lombardy, in comparison to the school of the same cultural backgrounds. So we get that result. But what we focus a lot is that it is important for us that no one is left behind. So when we get the results from the national standard test, we check that we don't have a big difference between the best performing students and the least performing students. So we don't have to have a big gap between like the best students and what maybe the students were struggling. So we are happy when the gap is short, when there isn't a big gap. And at the end, we just have to remember that these tests are not our students. So as I said before, this is just part of what they are and what we do. But of course, we have to consider everything I said before, like the environment, the way they work, and also how they behave and interact during international projects. So I finished. If you have a question or you want to ask me something more, I'm here. Thank you very much for your attention.
I do have some questions, and other people have put things in the chat too. So, yes, we'll get to the questions now. The first question from Jenny in Spain, she asked about where you get the cards for speaking that you showed early in the presentation. Is that something you buy there locally, or do you make them from a website?
Depends which ones, because the very short one, I prepare them. The colorful one with the different topic, I downloaded from a website. I can share the link if you want. It was a free website, and the other one I bought.
Okay. Okay.
So it can be different ways, and yeah.
Sure, we can share later some links that you might want to have, that you have to share. Olga in the Czech Republic asks if the parents pay for the Cambridge exam, or are they included in the school fees?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that. Yes, the Cambridge exam, they pay. They pay, and so it's extra. And I didn't tell you that, of course, they get the results from the Cambridge exams because they have the diploma then, but we don't know, and we don't tell our parents the results of Invalsi, of the national standards, because they are anonymous. So actually we know, but we don't tell the parents about the single student results.
Right, but then you're saying that the parents get the results from the Cambridge exam, and then you ask them to share it with you?
No, the Cambridge I have to, because as a teacher I get the results.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So you get the results and the parents get the results?
Yes, at the same time, because you can download them online.
Mhm.
And they also give me, what is interesting, that also Cambridge gives me at the end some Excel, some graphics, some charts.
Mhm.
But
So you can, I guess, compare how different groups perform different school years, and
yes, different school years, different groups, also female, male. If you're interested, it's there. It's an information you get also in the world, in Italy and in the world, for the different skills, the listening, the speaking, and the reading and writing.
okay. Kimberly in Mexico City says at her school, they offer Cambridge exams for 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And she puts the Cambridge equivalents there. And she said, what do you recommend to help parents understand what each level implies? She says, young learner level, key, preliminary, FCE. Some parents compare it to the results of their children with others, and some think that young learner levels are very low or basic. So do you have to explain this to the parents in your school, what the different levels? I guess you're using starters, movers, and flyers.
Yes, because also families are becoming more anxious about everything. Yes, because Yeah, I don't have a specific meeting on that topic, but yes, I do explain to our parents what are the level, I mean, in respect to the expectation, because sometimes their feeling is that, for example, to sit the starters or to attend the movers, they have to be like bilingual. But I mean, a very high level. So they're very anxious and they don't know what it means. I mean, they can read the description of the level. So I help them to read, to tell them what is the expectation. So I just give them examples. I show them the videos of a test, for example, for the speaking, or I show them the material and I tell them what is the exam in general, very briefly.
Sarah in France asks if you use the Cambridge workbooks in school with the children.
Okay, not the big one, not like fun for movers or fun for starters. I just use the smallest booklet, the one that contains 3 tests, previous tests. So I work with other kind of material, and of course, it's a work that we start from the 1st grade on. I just use this booklet, for example, now. So today I enter the class and say, okay, today let's try a test. But I don't use through the lesson, the booklet, the book. I don't know if I explained very well. I just use the booklet, the one about the test. There are 3 tests, but not the big one.
But are you using it? Or are you do the children have the same book as well? Are they looking at the same thing, or you make copies for them?
No, I don't make copies because we can't. No, yes, they buy this booklet with the 3 tests, and they use it at the same time for the listening. Because
Okay.
I have the listening, I mean the CD.
Mhm.
But for the reading and writing part, we just do one together, and then the other one they work during the autonomous work alone, and then they come to me. So this is very important actually, because when we work alone, some children are very good maybe at part 1, part 2, or some skills. Some other are maybe in the reading comprehension task. But when they come to me and they see the mistakes or where and why they're struggling on some parts, I can help them individually.
Mhm.
So I focus just on the part they need to focus, not on everything again and again with everybody.
Okay. And just to clarify, the students in your school, do they only take the Cambridge exams at 10 years old, or do you actually offer starters and movers, or you only offer for only when they're 10 years old at the end in 5th grade? Is that right?
At the end of the 4th grade, starters, and at the end of the 5th grade, movers or flyers. Yes, not before, because what we noticed that for some of the children it was very difficult to face a test, to do a test, not just because of English, for the English level, but also for other skills that are linked also to Italian, like their skills in understanding a test, in reading and writing. So what we like, we don't select children, we don't select the students. So we are happy when most of them sit the exam. So that's why we postpone, not postpone, but we offer the starters at the end of the 4th grade. And then sometimes we push them up a little bit with the flyers, but they are older. So they have other skills like reading skills, and they can manage this kind of test better than we were younger.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that probably is a bigger question about, you mentioned just how you know, on the one hand, you're working to prepare them to have the vocabulary and listening practice and other things that they need for the Cambridge exam. But how do you prepare them for the test itself, for taking this kind of exam?
So is it a question? Do you want to know how?
Question is how, not so much the skills and the vocabulary that they'll need for the exam, but the actual taking an exam itself. How do you prepare them for that?
Okay, the strategies behind the test. Oh yes, I usually it's a practice that you have to do all along the year in all the different jobs or works they do. So I just we practice together. We do some activities together, and for the test in particular, I just when I use that booklet with the free tests, I just offer it also with the national standard. I don't use books for the national standards. I just offer, I just ask them to do 2 previous tests. And when we do this, I just tell them the tricks. The tricks, I mean, read carefully, go through the test again. But this is something I have been telling them when I, for example, I show you before they highlight, to highlight the keywords or listen carefully until the end of the dialogues, something like that. But it's a work you have to do in every single activity you do. And okay, some strategies, yes, like speak English. If you don't understand, don't stay like that. Like frozen. But okay, this is something funny. But okay, you can say, please, can you repeat, please? Or if you understand the question, but you know what to say, but you just need one word, you can ask, sorry, what's libro in English? Because sometimes we just frozen, we don't move. So yes, I give them these strategies too, but while we work.
Right. Okay, thank you. And one question that I had, which actually goes back to, it's slide number 6, I made a note, but it's where you show they have the green boxes and you show how the different amounts of time and how the week is structured for the children in English. And you mentioned that there's coordination between the the English teacher and the classroom teacher for the 2 hours per week of cosmic education. How do you coordinate that? Are you doing more? Is she doing more? Are you really doing it together?
Okay, it's a good question because we always change or improve it. What we do is we have a lot now of teams, we call them teams, where we discuss about the topic. And then sometimes we work together, like we are in the same class together. For example, now I'm working with 3rd graders about orienteering. So I say something in English and the Italian teacher say something in Italian, or we decide and we say, okay, you introduce this, you do the presentation of the Montessori material in English, and then I do that part in Italian. So we have to coordinate ourselves a lot. But sometimes when all the presentation are finished or that presentation is done, I take a small group out because we have the English lab now, and we focus more on the language, on that part. Maybe of course it's orienteering, but we focus on the language because our students are not bilingual yet, and so we need also to improve the vocabulary, for example, in this case. So, and it's just a question of deciding who is doing what. So we also English teacher, we have the Montessori Pedagogy diploma. So we can do also the presentation, but we decide whatever is more functional for that class or that age group or the topic.
Mhm. Kirsten in Austria works with adolescents, and she offers tests to them on a voluntary basis and without grading, and they go through strategies for each area. The last time everyone wanted to participate, and which was interesting because her students only know the Montessori system, which doesn't include formal testing. So that was just a comment from her about her adolescence. Thank you, Kirsten.
Yeah, yes, Kristen. Also, my students, they are not used to testing, not just in English, but in general, in Italian, in geography, whatever. But after a while, they love this. I don't know, but they love this part, also the testing part, or the things that, oh, no, you have to do the test. But they don't compare. It's not something they have to compare each other. It's not like that. They're not competitive. It's not competition. It's just something they like because they like to do the test and they have the diploma. But it's good.
Right, but sometimes it's not the children who compare, it's the parents who compare.
Yeah.
Do you have
so anxious now? We have been talking about this, that parents are becoming more anxious. I mean, it's okay to ask for information, want to know what is the listening test, what is the Cambridge, the Imbalsi, but we notice that they have also some anxiety now. We are anxious about that.
Thank you, Roberta. I think that we're few enough people, and if anyone wants to unmute themselves and just share a question or a reflection based on your experience, I think we could take a few minutes and do that now before we wrap up.
Can I just say something? Because I'm also teaching in the upper elementary, and sometimes I also use the British Council side because I find it quite useful for especially for the listening, as they offer also different accents. Because it's always that the children usually are used either to the native speaker's accent or to the BBC English. And then sometimes if they're confronted with another person, it's really difficult for them to understand the English. So I find it quite useful as they are then used to different accents as well. So that's the first one. I don't do testing with them because they start quite late in the Austrian school system with English. And we are not a bilingual school, but I rather try them to find the love for English and then do then at the adolescent level we do the testing, which is really interesting because they are keen on, and it makes a huge difference if they've never done the test before. And if a test is compulsory in your system, it's really important to do tests and exams because they get so nervous and the time management is a real struggle for them. And then it's also the sort of questions they have to answer, because sometimes they're not used to such questions and then they don't know what to answer to. So
yeah, you're right. I didn't mention about the accent, but that's key, because apart from me, that of course I'm Italian, but we have the mother tongue, the native speaker teacher.
Yes.
But then they get used to them too, because one is from South Africa, so they get used to that accent, and then they're used to her. So that's very important what you're telling us now. And with this, okay, they're listening, they're not true people, but they get used to different accents. That's very important. And also get used to a test. I mean, why not? Is anyway a competence that you need to have for life to manage the, the anxiety, the nervous, or yes, like to be, sometimes we say furbo in Italian, that means funny, and try to manage the answer and not be, as I said before, like, I don't know what to say, because sometimes if you ask them, what do you usually have for lunch? They're like, it depends. Yes, okay, but So it is something funny to work with them because we need to, of course, they're children. We don't have to forget that.
I don't know if you find it useful, but on the British Council Teens website, there are exam strategies. And there are, so there's like a guide to the Cambridge exams or to other diplomas. This is maybe for the adolescent, but you can actually read it through and go through it and just maybe use it for the preparation of the other children too.
Oh, I've never been through that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I think it's in the, I think there's an extra link on the website which does say exam, or you can find it under the study break, but it's not the council side for kids, it's the council side for teens.
Teens. Okay, yes, I use teens. Even if they're kids, because I think the kids
Yeah.
is not so interesting. Teens is.
Great. Would anyone else like to share a reflection with Roberta or with your other colleagues who are here with us today?
Hi, everybody. I was really looking forward to this conference. And like I had mentioned in the chat at our school, since previous coordinations, they've always offered the Cambridge exams for the students. So my question is here, at your school, do you have like a preparation course and that the children can like practice through the exams before they take them?
No. We don't have a preparation course. We just, the work is done, as I said, during the years. And of course, we focus more on the 4th and 5th grade. But no, we don't have extra hours for the preparation. No.
Okay, thank you. And basically what I've done here at the school is just only the students that are going to get certified. They take basically like a preparation course with me directly, 1 hour a week, and I organize it with the guides, with the English teachers, and more than anything, so we can reinforce all of the areas of the exam. The children take the diagnostics each year in December. I send the results out to the parents individually so they can scope out what level they're at, and then they voluntarily decide to take the exam. And I always tell the parents to include the children, to speak with them, to talk with them. Do you want to take the exam? How do you feel for it, about it? And I give them the confidence, you know, that that they will be prepared for it. I've worked with these types of exams from before. And the only thing that we sometimes do as well, it's between the band levels. Sometimes children might demonstrate that they might be in the next level. So sometimes like we have to retest. And if we notice that some of the children are struggling, for example, with the flyers, we'll check into movers or into starters. And since we have a very wide range of English levels, that's why the school offers key, preliminary, and first certificate. But the situation that has arisen at my school because of this is basically that a lot of parents have this idea that they want their children to graduate 6th grade with a key or a preliminary, and it's just not that way. Every child has a different level. So that's why I kind of asked as well, like, do you have a meeting with the parents? Do you explain this information to them? You know, just more than anything so that their expectations are realistic and they're not putting like extra pressure on the students.
Yeah, you're right. We don't have this meeting because the school doesn't want, I mean, specific to focus on the Cambridge test, because then they say, oh, it's a test, it's a Montessori school. But yes, we don't have. But when I have like the parents meeting, like these days, these weeks, that's something strategic, because they have to decide whether to sign in for the exam and to pay for the exam, like at the end of this week, this one. And I had the parents meeting last week. So I tell the parents that we can discuss both this and each single student during this meeting. But I'd like to do, like you do, Kimberly, like a parents meeting to talk about this, because I really like the topic. And you said something interesting at the beginning. Yeah, that you don't want to have kids beyond. I mean, that you want everybody involved in the test, and that's something I really like. Something in particular, I really insist on this since I've been at the school, because I think that all the children, apart from some specific cases that you may understand which ones, everybody can sit the exam. Sometimes, okay, the starter is, you know, like something good for us because it's a starting point. But then we can, okay, divide and decide whether to do the movers or flyers later on. But yes, I'd like that everybody would do that.
Mhm.
Just as
Well,
part
thank you,
of-
everyone.
sorry.
No, thank you. It was just really interesting. And I just want to add just like a final comment because I know that we're wrapping up and everything. But one thing that's extraordinary in Montessori environments is the level of concentration that the students have when they're doing this. So when we apply the diagnostics, we always check what were their areas of opportunity and what were their strengths in the exam when they took the diagnostic. So that way we can reinforce certain areas. And then when I'm working with the children, I group them together. Flyers, take their 1 hour course with me a week, and key, preliminary, etc. But one interesting thing that I do with the students is that when they're answering, I always tell them, like, apply your Montessori, concentrate, you're in this moment at this moment. And the children have just given us like amazing results. So I really believe, you know, in everything that we're doing with the children, that they're working at their own rhythm and just helping them, you know, with their confidence and having them, you know, be able to just give them the strategies so that any areas of opportunity, they have time to work on it. So when the day of the exam comes around, they take their certification, we're proud of their accomplishments. And then we even have interviews with them afterwards. How did it go? How did you feel? Did you notice on your graph that maybe you need to work on in reading and writing? Why don't, when you work with your English guide, propose these types of activities so you can work on them?
Yes, actually, to be sincere, we don't have, as I said, extra preparation course, but we do something similar because I ask my students when they finish different tests, I ask them, okay, for example, part 2, it's a mess, it's a disaster. Okay, when you go to the English lab and they work with the native teacher, the native speaker teacher, okay, you work on this part and you have to ask Mrs. D, is the name of the teacher, you have to ask Mrs. D to work more on the speaking or the listening. And so I don't check them, I just tell them, and then when they go, they work with her in a small group, but I don't have to control them. They just go and ask to do that because they feel it's their responsibility. Yes, Kimberly. I love working in Montessori school.
And Kimberly, how long have you been in the school you're in now?
This is going to be my 3rd year working here. Previously, I've worked at other schools with constructivist method. So yeah, I'm at Montessori de la Condesa in Mexico City. I love working here. I collaborate with all my teachers, and I'm a follower of all the bilingual Montessori conversations that you guys have. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it. And thanks to Roberta and everyone else who joined us today.